Ladies and gentlemen, how about those St. Louis Billikens? Huh? Let's go. There is little doubt that no one anywhere has seen more Billiken basketball than our next inductee. Bob Ramsey has been covering SLU basketball for 40 years. That's a milestone in itself. He's been courtside at the mic through good times, bad times, bringing the game to the Billikens' loyal fans. And this year has been a special treat. Let's welcome him to the stage to share his journey behind the mic, covering the 19th ranked team in America, Bob Ramsey.
Three on two, Mike wants another one. Back, Mike Jr. Fired ahead to Goodwin. Here comes the fun to the hole. Jam time. Jordan Goodwin on the run. He comes down low. Jam time. Hargrove. Bang, 2 on 2. Full speed. Kellen layup. Missed it. Jam time on the follow. Then finds Q in the corner. Bang. Q ball. Green to the right wing. Green wants a quick pop three. Bang! The Trey. Sharma from the wing. Bang! Instant Sharma. Bang! Oh, baby! What a shot by Trey Green. Pass. Sharma, NBA range. Instant Sharma. You've got to be kidding me. 3, 2, 1 from 30 feet. He missed. The Billikens win. The Billikens win. The Billikens beat number 2 Louisville.
That is the worst call I have ever seen. Oh, are you kidding me? That is the worst call I have ever seen.
Ladies and gentlemen, here to conduct the interview with Bob Ramsey, 2018 Hall of Fame inductee, his broadcast partner, Earl Austin Jr.
I don't go anywhere without Earl.
It's a pretty good game last night, wasn't it?
We had a game last night at Davidson. One of the reasons I don't go anywhere without Earl is, you may know or have noticed, I get wound up a little tight. Just a little. Earl is Mr. Serenity, and he keeps me calm and and that's why the partnership works.
You know, we've been together 35 years doing the games, also other, on TV and what. I've never interviewed you. This is our first time actually conducting an interview. I really don't know what to do. I'm used to you. You set the scene, call the game, and I react to what you do.
Let me tell you something about Earl Austin. Let me tell you something about Earl Austin. His first year, he was a fill-in guy for our good friend Malcolm Briggs, and the minute he started talking on the mic, I go, oh, wow, this is the guy. This is the guy. And if you ever listen to a game on KMOX and hear Earl and I talking over each other, I promise you, it's my fault. It's my fault. Earl takes pride in making the partnership work.
40 years of excellence. We'll talk about the Billikens, but this man is so much more than the Billikens, and it's a big part of his career. I mean, he's just a treasure in the St. Louis community, and you say the St. Louis Hummers will be inducted tonight, and one of your early gigs was the voice of the St. Louis Hummers. And tell us about that experience, and then to be a part, to share the induction ceremony with them tonight.
You know, it comes full circle because that was my first job out of college, was broadcasting Hummers games, and I learned a lot. We'll talk about that with them, but it was an unbelievable opportunity and a great start for me, and being with great people. The players were so cool, and it was a good team. It was so much fun. But, it's really about the people, that you run across in your career. Frank Cusimano was up here earlier. One of my next jobs was broadcasting DeSmet basketball, and Frank was playing. And then Frank somehow wedged his way into the DeSmet broadcast. I don't know how that happened. But so Frank and I have been friends, ever since. But the key there is the great Rich Grauer was the head coach at DeSmet. Well, fast forward 7 years later, he's the head coach at St. Louis U. There's an opening, and it's in no small part to Rich's, saying, yeah, he's okay, getting me the job. So it's funny, all the people you meet and kind of help you along the way.
Of course, you'd made a stop in Louisiana, and you were the voice of Louisiana Tech sports, primarily the men's and women's basketball, obviously the women Lady Techsters, national champions, but also you helped bring the nation conscience to this young man named Karl Malone, the mailman. You were one of the first people to see him, and you kind of brought him into the national spotlight when he was in college, and he became a Hall of Famer and an all-time great.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to say I made it up and it was all me, but what happened was at the university we were all getting together, and who knows where Ruston, Louisiana is? That's what I thought. Nobody did, and so what happened is we said Malone is special. We've got to come up with a way to promote him. Can we come up with a nickname? And one of my friends and one of the guys we worked with said, how about the mailman? And I said, in my brilliance, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Then the boss said, yeah, well, you're calling him that on the radio tonight. I said, okay. Then it was within a month, he was in Sports Illustrated, dressed in a mailman uniform, stuffing a basketball into the mailbox. So sometimes it's good fortune.
Absolutely. Also, I became a fan of indoor soccer. I did follow the Steamers back in the 80s, but I really became a fan of the Ambush because of you. You were the voice of the St. Louis Ambush. They won a championship indoor soccer, and you brought life to those broadcasts. And I really wasn't a big soccer fan, but I just listened to the games specifically because of what you brought to the passion you brought, just like you do the Billikens. It doesn't matter what your broadcast, you brought passion to that team and that organization.
Well, that's funny you say that because I didn't know anything about soccer either. But one of the things that made it such a great job, because I had to fill in, the guy who was doing it got a job out of town and left in the middle of the season. But I'd already known Daryl Duran a little bit and a couple of the guys, and I said, hey, I'm happy to do this, but you got to teach me. You got to teach me. And so those guys, could have, who's this non-soccer guy? But they embraced me and brought me along, and that championship season was as much fun as I've ever had in broadcasting. Really great guys and a great time. And the owner of the club, Abraham Hawatma, a wonderful guy. So I go into the season not knowing anything about soccer, come out of the season, we win a championship, and for those of you who know Abe, I'll try and do the impression. He says, Bob Ramsey, you are friend to soccer. That's about all I could hope for. It was great.
Of course, that brings us to the Billikens. 40 years of not only broadcast, but being the voice and the ambassador of St. Louis University athletics. I mean, like I said, it means more than just calling the games. A lot of times they associate Billiken basketball and athletics with the man here at my right. What does that mean to you? Is that to you over the course of 40 years as that's grown?
It's like this honor. It's unbelievable. I don't believe it. It can't be real. The great Jack Buck once told me, and I had mentioned to Mr. DeWitt earlier, because I got to fill in for some games for a few years for the Cardinals, and I told him how much I appreciated that opportunity because a kid growing up in St. Louis, even be in the booth, much less do games, and so I really appreciated what the DeWitts and the Cardinals meant to me. But Jack Buck said when I got to do those games, and it's kind of how I feel about being here tonight, he said, well, kid, I figured if you hung around long enough, you'd get in here. And it's kind of worked out that way. But for the Billikens, it's, it wasn't always easy. In fact, the great Charlie Spoonhour saved my job twice. And for those, and like my friends and colleagues from 550 KTRS are here, Tom and from KMOX, so they know how the business is. And 2 different times when the Bills changed to different stations, they were going to bring in another announcer. And 2 different times, Charlie Spoonhour said, if Rammer's not doing it, we're not coming to this station. And you guys all know, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in the business. So again, it's the people, it's the relationships. When I first started out, I was not too much older than the players and you can hang. Now I'm like their grandfather. So it's a completely different relationship, but you get to know them. And like last night, Brady Dunlap had 6 threes. Before the game, I got a chance to talk to him about how much fun he was. And, it's not a surprise that parents end up liking Earl and me because we say how great their kids are, right? But we mean it. We mean it. We love those guys, and I think it's the relationships going back to Rich Grauer and the great Jim Bakken, who hired me at SLU, all the way through to today and working with Coach Schertz and developing that relationship. It's the people that make this journey so much fun.
Now, you said last night, you told me that you really became stamped with moments you had with Trey Green last night. When he...
It's the greatest compliment I ever got in sports. Okay? So Trey Green, for those of you who don't know, he's just in conference play, he's shooting like 54% from three-point range. It's just stupid. It's unbelievable. He had another good game last night. Afterwards, I went up to him. You know, you see one of the guys, you go congratulate him, and I go, "Hey, Trey, heck of a night." And he goes, "You my dog." So, knowing that I'm Trey Green's dog,
he was so proud. He was so excited when he came up and saw me to say that. I said, "All right, you stamped."
Yeah, I'm stamped.
Absolutely. One thing over the course of being together over almost 4 decades is that when we travel all the time, most of the time we're talking about basketball, but then we started talking about families and what my nephews and what your children are doing,
right.
And I became as much invested in what your family and your kids were doing involved in sports.
He's Uncle Earl.
Uncle Earl, and
Yep.
I know that all of them are here tonight as well. I know you want to recognize them.
Well, my 3 kids, Brad, Lucy, and Brendan, my wife, Jen, and dear friends, my sisters back at that table, my good buddies that I still get to try and play baseball with. They know I'm still as bad as when I was a kid, but they let me hang around the Bud Light guys, and as I said, my colleagues and friends from 550. So, those are the kind of people that you're with and around, and it's wonderful.
One of my favorite, maybe one of the most excited, we've won conference championships, went to the NCAA tournament. I always tell the story. The most excited I've ever heard Rammer was when he called me. I was, his daughter Lucy was a star volleyball player at Ursuline. Ursuline, and it's their senior year. And they were like the number 2 or 3 seed in the district tournament. And I went the week before, I went to a game, and they lost to their rival, Narings Hall, and they weren't happy. So they're playing in the district. So I'm at another district out at Rockwood, watching. And so my phone is just blowing up, and I didn't, what's Rammer calling? So I didn't pick it up. He calls back again, and I'm writing, then he calls back again, and then he's screaming, "We just beat St. Joe! We just beat St. Joe!" He's just screaming it at the top of his lungs, and they just made a big upset, and I was just so proud of you, and that's just kind of how our relationship has grown. I want to say before we close this, not only is Rammer just a class act and one of the best to ever do it here in St. Louis, but he is such a great person. I watch him work with people. We travel all over the place. Rammer he treats everybody great, with respect. It doesn't matter if it's a famous coach, a celebrity who you may talk to.
Referees?
No, yeah, good ones. Could be workers, anybody. I watch him. He doesn't notice. I observe that, and he puts a smile on everybody's face. We played LaSalle a couple of weeks ago in Philadelphia, and we won. We won by 15 points, and then so we got enough stuff waiting to go out. So we're waiting for a ride. So one of their young men comes out, and then he just starts shooting free throws and everything. Rammer puts his stuff down, and then just goes over and then just starts rebounding for the kid, just an opposing player. And the kid's just shooting, and he just didn't think nothing of it. And this went on for about 10 minutes. And then after that, we were about to go. He comes over and shakes his, "Thank you very much, thank you." That's Bob Ramsey. I mean, that's the man I'm proud of. I love him for that, because I've seen that over the course of 40 years. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. One of the best to ever do it, Bob Ramsey, the Rammer.
Go down the steps.